that I know you've been following and are interested in, starting with our annual General Assembly legislative wrap-up. This is something we like to do each year at the conclusion of the General Assembly's work. There's certainly legislation that the Council asked the General Assembly to consider for Sussex County or all three counties, and then there's other legislation that we track that may have an impact on the county's business, or something that, as you're well aware, has some attention on Sussex County, which seemed to happen this session. So I wanted to bring some of these topics forward just to provide this update. First, we're going to start with Senate Bill 176. This council asked the General Assembly for this piece of legislation that would allow Sussex County the ability to charge an additional fee on our building permits. The Senate bill was written much like the legislation that gives Kent County the same authority already. Senator Huxtable helped us with this legislation, moving it through, and eventually it was passed and is ready for the governor's signature. Recall, this gives the ability to charge a surcharge of an amount not greater than 1.25% of the construction value to provide for local share of the capital construction program that for a school that has received certificate of necessity from the Department of Education. Again, very much aligned with Kent County. Does not apply to permits with a construction value of $30,000 or less. So this was approved, which now turns back to us. It gave us the authority to create this additional fee. Now we've got to take the second step, which is create the ordinance here that would calculate the building permit fee here in Sussex. So we've got more work to do, and that calculation will be forthcoming. I've had some conversations already to see how fast and what we want to do with this. So we'll be bringing this back to you in a matter of
I know this is a high-level presentation, but I mean, do you anticipate there will be any ability for us to, offer amendments or carve-outs or massage the final version of the? I mean, I've got some concerns, about a blanket 1.25 on everybody. We already charge 4% transfer tax, and so just wondering.
Yeah, I do believe that we have the authority, if you want to exercise the authority to create some type of loophole on this fee. Affordable workforce housing comes to mind. Yes. Right? In this environment where we're trying to create more workforce housing, it may be something that would be an incentive when it comes to these permits. Obviously, we've got to do it in an equitable manner so that we don't create a loophole with an unfair advantage and then create those concerns. So that's part of this discussion that we need to iron out. If that is something that you all want to consider, staff is going to bring forth our recommendations to have that conversation. I guess the key takeaway is there's more work to be done before this goes into effect. Even that needs to be a consideration. When do you want this to go into effect? In fact, if we take the next step, is it immediately? Is it down the road? It's a conversation we need to have.
And that's on only new builds, right? It doesn't go back retroactively.
Does not go back. It's only applying to building permits. Obviously, we have a building permit fee today. Mm-hmm. This would be in addition to that fee. One portion of this discussion needs to be the calculation of that fee. We need to have that conversation. The code spells out how that's done, so we're going to bring that forward so that you understand exactly the guardrails we've got to operate within.
Okay, thank you.
Next legislation, which I know you are all very familiar with, and I say that almost with a grin, SB 159, which seemed to overtake the General Assembly near the end of session. This is the bill that Senator Hansen brought forth, which was really, in essence, directed towards a decision made here in Sussex County related to an electrical substation. The language in general of the bill forbid a county from denying a conditional use permit to any electrical substation and related infrastructure under certain conditions. It was written in such a way that it really applied to a previous condition that was voted on here by a former council. As you know, that decision in particular is now in the courts, where we will wait for a decision in Superior Court related to the appeal that came from the applicant. Once we got to the end of the session, 159 was being used to hold up the bond bill, and 159 did get approved with some amendments, but then the certain members of the Senate and the House Republican leadership said they would not vote on the bond bill until a compromise was reached. And if you're in favor of that effort, credit to Representative Dukes and Senators Pettyjohn and Hocker, who really negotiated that through in the last 2 days of the session, which then brought about Senate Bill 199, which made the effects of 159 to be delayed until the end of January 2026. So an effort to allow this legislation to be on hold, if you will, until the court decision is rendered. There's also an Environmental Appeal Board appeal that is pending as well. So two decisions that are sort of outside the legislature's jurisdiction that needs to work its way through. So that was the compromise that was reached, and so 159 and 199 were approved. Once 199 was approved, then the bond bill was released, and they were able to finish the session. Any questions? Push your button. Push your button.
I keep on trying to make sure I'm not accidentally on the mic. I think that the House Bill 222 was actually, also pulled as part of that effort, and that was something that affected nutrient management plans on, our local farms. And, that effort, whether you agreed with it or not, 222 did not have a positive impact on our local farmers, and made pretty exorbitant fines for nutrient management plans, possible on our local farmers. So I applaud their efforts up there.
Actually, my question is, does this not render the court decision moot?
No, I don't believe so.
So what happens, well, maybe you want to
We probably don't want to go too close to the pending legal. What we have to do is wait for the courts to make a decision, and either way, there's going to be a reaction from this council depending on the next steps they want to take. I think the point in 199 was, had 199 not been approved, in effect, the 159 legislation would have immediately taken effect.
Right.
Now, there was an amendment offered that delayed that to a certain point in time in the future. They didn't feel that was good enough, so they passed 199 to at least create some time between July 1 and January 31, 26 to allow the courts to render their decision. So in essence,
but regardless,
whatever happens
199
with
goes into effect
correct.
next year, regardless of the court.
That is correct, yes. And stand by for 222. I have a slide for that too. I did want to reference that because there was concerns from our ag community, but no, you're fine. You're fine. At least we're tracking together here. Senate Bill 86, Delaware Volunteer Fire Service Loan Fund. This was approved. This did expand the loan program to allow counties to contribute funds to this program. This is an existing program. However, it was expanded in legislation to allow the counties to submit funding to the loan program. I know this is something Mr. Lloyd mentioned previously, that if Sussex County were willing to offer funding into the loan program and participate with that, maybe we can increase the funding that's available to our local fire companies for their needs. So we do now, in fact, have that authority, should that be a consideration that the county council would like to exercise in the future. Again, I believe this was Senator Huxtable that pushed this bill through. Another bill that was focused on Sussex County in particular, Senate Bill 75, retail marijuana stores. This one did get approval. I've listed here some of the changes that the bill, in effect, will have on, in particular, Sussex County, which we created our own ordinance last year that addressed retail marijuana stores, as well as cultivation centers and processing centers for legal marijuana. This bill looked to address some of the concerns that the General Assembly had related to the conditions that Sussex County created, which basically, with these conditions, it reverses our or loosens our restrictions, including, if you look towards the bottom, permits the operation of a marijuana store in area zoned for commercial or industrial use, except as follows: within a half a mile of another retail marijuana store, within 500 feet of a school, a child care facility, a residential treatment facility, a park, or a library. Sussex created an ordinance that had much greater restrictions, 3 miles between some of these uses. This now reverses that and creates these restrictions. As of right now, or as of last night, I'm told the governor has not signed this bill yet. I don't know if he intends to or not. We shall see. It has not been signed by the governor, so we can just wait and see what his intentions are. Something we were tracking closely was Senate Bill 87, accessory dwelling units. Again, a situation where the county created updated our code for accessory dwelling units to allow accessory dwelling units in a much greater fashion than we had before. SB 87 would require all local government, all towns and counties, to change their codes to allow a minimum of 1 ADU by right on a lot or parcel that contains a single-family dwelling. This bill did not move forward. So this is another bill from Senator Huxtable that we will pay close attention to see if it comes back forward in next year's session. Councilman McCarron mentioned House Bill 222. This is involving nutrient management, something that most farmers in Sussex County pay close attention to. In essence, it raised the fines related to any violations of the nutrient management program that the Management Commission could charge from what you see up here, not less than $125, not more than $5,000, with a limit of $10,000. This really had the agriculture community concerned. They raised their concerns to a level that the bill sponsor decided not to move forward with this at this session. So I think those concerns were answered. It also was part of the negotiation near the end of session related to the bond bill. And then 2 highlights related to financial bills. The state passed their budget bills, the bond bills, the grant and aid, and within these financial bills, there were things related to the county that we always track. Again, for several years, we've received an additional $1 million for our paramedic services. This is outside the percentage coverage, so another year, another $1 million to each county for paramedic services. Fire companies did receive increases over a number of categories related to the apparatus that they may have or the types of devices that they use that you see in each year's bill or each year's financial bills. This year marks the end of the it's been 3 years now. The previous 3 years, we've seen an additional trooper added to the county over the last 3 years. We're now, with those 3 and the 3 additional that the state agreed to, we're at 50 additional troopers in Sussex County. This ends that increase that was agreed upon a couple of years ago. So we're now at a total of 50 additional troopers above and beyond for Sussex. And then something we track is our $10 million in open space and farmland preservation. Both were funded at that $10 million mark in their state's financial bills. And then last slide, the Community Reinvestment Fund is a fund that the General Assembly allots to certain entities throughout the state. And you can look through the list. It's a pretty decent list of recipients of funding at varying amounts of money, 6 pages of recipients. I did highlight a few that are germane to Sussex County in particular. There's a lot of Sussex County recipients, but not that have the connection that these 2 entities have with our council. $100,000 to the Botanic Gardens, and then $225,000 to the Sussex County Land Trust for those 3 initiatives, Forest of the Broad Kill, Ickwood Park, and Nanico Crossing. I know you guys are familiar with those. So that's good news for these entities. And if you ever have a chance to look at the CRF fund, it does show a number of local towns that receive funding through this grant program. That concludes this update. Any questions on the legislative session?